Boppard, formerly also spelled Boppart, is a town and municipality in the Rhein-Hunsrück-Kreis in Rhineland-Palatinate, Germany, lying in the Rhine Gorge, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The town is also a state-recognized tourism resort and is a wine-growing center. Geography. Location. Boppard lies on the upper Middle Rhine, often known as the Rhine Gorge. This characteristic narrow form of valley arose from downward erosion of the Rhine's riverbed. Since 2002, the gorge has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site. A 17 km stretch of the Rhine forms the town's eastern limit. Along this part of the river lie the outlying centers of Eisenach and Bad Salzig, as well as the town's main center, also called Boppard. Directly north of Boppard, the Rhine takes its greatest bend. This bow is called the Bopparder Ham, although this name is more commonly applied to the wine-growing area found along it. The best-known lookout point over this bow in the Rhine is the Blick, or four-lake view. This vista gets its name from the way in which the Rhine can be seen from here, or rather the way in which it cannot be seen. Hills block out most of the view of the river itself so that visitors can only see four apparently separate patches of water, rather like four lakes. These are all actually parts of the Rhine. There are no lakes to be seen. The Blick can be reached by chairlift. Boppard's town forest is the second biggest in Rhineland-Palatinate with an area of 43.6 square kilometers. Since 1969, the town of Boppard has belonged to the Rhein-Hunsrück-Kreis and is the district's northernmost municipality. Boppard is a middle center. The nearest upper center is Koblenz, some 22 kilometers away. Constituent communities. Since 1976, Boppard has consisted of 10 Ortsbezirke, a special kind of municipal internal division found in some cities and towns in Rhineland-Palatinate. Each Ortsbezirk has its own council, whose head bears the title Ortsvorsteher. Some of these Ortsbezirke even have their own Ortsteil, but these have no separate representation on any council. Boppard's Ortsbezirke are as follows: Boppard with the Ortsteil of Backenau, Bad Salzig, Buchholz with the Ortsteil of Ohlenfeld, Hirschwiesen with the Ortsteil of Windhausen, Eisenach, Holzfeld, Oppenhausen with the Ortsteil of Hubingen, Rheinbay, Udenhausen, Weiler with the Ortsteil of Flecketschoe. History. The earliest trace of settlement unearthed by archaeologists in the Boppard area has been a storage yard dating back some 13,000 years to the time of the Federmesser culture. Roman times. In the course of Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul and the ensuing Roman settlement of the lands on the Rhine's left bank, there also followed the founding of Vicus Bordelbrücke on the way into the Muhltal. The name is of Celtic origin, which implies that there had been Celtic settlement before the Romans came, or perhaps that there was one at the same time as the Romans were there. With the expansion of the limes, the Middle Rhine lost its strategic importance. On the other hand, the river was gaining more and more importance as a supply and trade avenue. In the mid-3rd century, the Rhine's right bank had to be evacuated and conceded to the Germani, thereby making the Rhine the empire's border once more. In 355, Roman Emperor Julian stopped the Germanic invasion and began securing the Middle Rhine. His successor Valentinian I finished the work. It was also at this time that the late Roman castrum, the Roma Castel Boppard on the Roman road through the Rhine Valley, was built. Towards the end of 405, the last Roman troops were withdrawn to defend Italy. The town's next documentary mention did not come until the early Middle Ages. According to this source from 643, Boppard was a Frankish royal estate and an administrative center of the Bopparder Reich, Holy Roman Empire. Until 1309, Boppard was a free imperial city, and as such was often frequented by the German kings, who would then reside at the so-called royal estate. A bronze seal die dating from 1228 to 36, now in the British Museum, proclaims the independence of Boppard under the reign of the Holy Roman Emperor. Its excellent state of preservation provides a tantalizing glimpse of the medieval town, complete with Romanesque cathedral and city walls. The royal estate lay at the end of the Mühltal on the Rhine. Governing the town and the surrounding imperial estate were imperial ministeriales. The head official in town was the Schultheiss. A series of the ministeriales lived in the town, among whom were the Baer von Boppard family, the family among the Jews, the von Schonecks and the von Bickenbachs. In 1309 and 1312, Emperor Heinrich VII pledged Boppard along with its outlying lands to his brother, Archbishop Baldwin of Trier. The Boppard townsfolk, however, felt that this merger with the electorate of Trier was unlawful. They tried to struggle against what they saw as a foreign ruler, and in 1327 they set up their own council. After a short siege, Baldwin had the town stormed and quelled this challenge to his authority, thus absorbing the town of Boppard into the electorate of Trier. Baldwin then had the toll castle, the Altenburg, expanded, which was also meant to ensure his lordship over the town. The elector managed to win over the town nobility by taking them into his service and giving them jobs in administration, but the arrangement still did not sit well with the townsfolk. They had but one hope: to get rid of the pledge arrangement and reinstate the town's lost imperial immediacy. Emperor Karl IV, though, dashed this hope. In 1368, he raised the sum of the pledge and promised that neither he nor his successor would allow the pledge to be redeemed. With high hopes, the townsfolk turned in 1496 to King of the Romans Maximilian I, who was supporting the town in its dispute with the Elector of Trier, Johann II of Baden. He freed Boppard from electoral jurisdiction and tolls. However, Maximilian overstepped his authority in redeeming the pledge and had to revise his decision. This led in 1497 to the Boppard War. The Bopparders were not prepared to see the town once more annexed by the electorate, so the Elector of Trier advanced on the town with an army of 12,000 soldiers. The neighboring places of Bad Salzig and Weiler surrendered without a fight. Boppard could not withstand the siege for long, and in the end had to acknowledge the elector as the ruler. In the 30 Years' War, Boppard lost 1/3 of its population. Swedish troops under Rhinegrave Otto Ludwig occupied the town on the 18th of January 1632. In the 9 Years' War, an attack by French troops was successfully repulsed. In the War of the Polish Succession, French troops under General de Court attacked Boppard. The new electoral city policy of 1789 was meant to strengthen the elector's influence, but by 1794, French revolutionary troops had occupied the town, which remained under French rule for the next 20 years. Prussian times until Napoleon's downfall in 1813 and 1814. Boppard, along with all the lands on the Rhine's left bank, belonged to France. After Marshal Gebhard Lebrecht von Blücher defeated the French troops, the victorious powers shared the administration of the territories under them. Thus, for a year and a half, Boppard was governed by the Imperial and Royal Austrian and Royal Bavarian Joint Land Administrations Commission. In 1815 the Congress of Vienna assigned the town along with the Rhine's left bank as far upstream as Bingerbrook to the Kingdom of Prussia. In 1816, new districts were established and Boppard was assigned to the Sankt Goar district, which was dissolved in 1969. At the time of the Wehrmacht, political tensions arose in Boppard, too. These flared up in particular around the longtime mayor, Matthias Jacobs, who is the representative of the long-established Catholic middle and lower classes, was always trying to prevail against the town's wealthy, liberal upper class. Only in the year of revolution did his opponents manage to drive him out of office. The physician Dr. Husner and the local businessman Jacob Malman opened the Mühlbad at Remigiusplatz in 1841. Under Jacob's successor, Joseph Siré, who between 1848 and 1892 was Boppard's mayor, the town developed into a tourism centre and a spa. This new industry was furthered by the building of the Koblenz-Bingerbruck Railway and the railway station in 1859. Steamship traffic on the Rhine, too, led to an upswing in the town's fortunes as a tourist centre. The Catholic middle and lower classes and the liberal upper-class newcomers often found themselves at odds with each other, and this broke out into the open in 1872 with the Kulturkampf, which lasted several years. In particular, Mayor Siré's and his liberal followers' conversion to Old Catholicism brought yet another religious figure into the fray. As the representative of the Catholic middle and lower classes, the longtime Dean Berger, who also enjoyed some fame as a poet, was the mayor's opponent. During the 19th century, Boppard's population grew from some 3,000 at the beginning to some 5,000 by about 1875. 20th century, about 1903, work began on linking another railway line to the station, the Hunsrück-Bahn, because the old Saarlingsturm, a tower that had been part of the town's medieval fortifications, was standing in the way. It had to be dismantled in 1906 to 1908, and it was then reassembled, albeit with thinner walls, north of its old location. In 1908, the last section of this line was completed, and in the same year, it was open. Even after the First World War, the Rhine province, and thereby Boppard too, belonged to Prussia. Between 1919 and 1923, there were efforts throughout the Rhineland to separate from Prussia, but they were unsuccessful. The National Socialist seizure of power in 1933 brought Boppard no changes at first. As the Centre Party had won 50% of the vote at the 1933 elections. However, on Kristallnacht, the Nazis destroyed the synagogue on Bingergasse, which had been opened in 1867. Many Jews were seized, and some were sent to concentration camps. Roughly two-thirds of the 100 Assa Jews living in Boppard emigrated. Those that remained were deported in 1942. In 1940, the Marienburg Convent and its associated school were closed under pressure from the regime. Although Boppard was not the main target of any airstrike, bombs were nevertheless dropped on the town. Beginning on the 19th of March 1945, the Rhine's left bank was controlled by United States forces, who built an emergency bridge across the Rhine at Boppard. Since 1946, the town has been part of the then newly founded state of Rhineland-Palatinate. In 1952, the outlying centre of Boppard-Buchenau was founded. In the course of administrative restructuring in Rhineland-Palatinate in the 1960s, the district of St. Gall was dissolved and Boppard was grouped into the new district of Rhein-Hunsrück-Kreis. Municipal boundaries, too, underwent reform. For Boppard, this meant that as of the 28th of July 1970, the town found itself, along with Bad Salzig, Buchholz, Hirschwiesen, Hausernach, Holzfeld, Oppenhausen, Rheinbay, Udenhausen and Weiler in a new Verbandsgemeinde. This, however, did not last. Later that same year, the idea was floated to merge Boppard with these 9 other municipalities to form a unified Greater Boppard. This was meant to simplify administration, and besides, it would bring the town a 12 million German marks bonus from the state. with the promise that this money would be spent mainly on the outlying centres. 8 of the 10 still self-administering municipalities, including Boppard itself, came round to seeing the merger as the right way to proceed. Bad Salzig, on the other hand, would only agree to amalgamation as long as the new, Greater Boppard could be called Boppard-Bad Salzig. Oppenhausen, for its part, completely refused to even consider the idea. Nonetheless, since the municipalities that agreed to amalgamation were home to more than 2/3 of the Verbandsgemeinde's population, and since the Verbandsgemeinde Council itself also supported the proposal, the Minister of the Interior was able to effect the change by issuing a regulation. This was implemented on the 31st of December 1975. The newly founded municipality was given the name of Boppard. This led the now Urteil of Bad Salzig to appeal to the State Constitutional Court on the same day and file suit to have the Interior Ministry's regulation overturned. The ruling came on the 8th of May 1977. The court rejected Bad Salzig's bid. Since the old town of Boppard was dissolved by the regulation, Boppard also no longer held town rights. Boppard's legal quest was, however, more successful than Bad Salzig's, and an appeal to the state government led to Boppard being granted town rights once more on the 10th of July 1976. Politics. Since 1976, the town administration has been housed at the former Carmelite monastery. The mayor's office, too, is to be found here. The town council meetings, though, have still held at the old town hall, built to plans by Paul Rovald in 1884 and 1885 in the Renaissance Revival style, on the marketplace. Town Council. The council is made up of 32 part-time council members, who were elected at the municipal election held on the 7th of June 2009, and the full-time mayor as chairman. The municipal election held on the 7th of June 2009 yielded the following results. As a result of this division of political fortunes, a CDU Green FWG coalition was formed. The mayor is elected every 8 years. Boppard's current mayor, elected on the 1st of August 1997 and again on the 10th of April 2005, is Dr. Walter Bursch, and his deputies are Dr. Heinz Bengert, Ruth Schneider and Horst Peter Hasbach. Coat of arms. The German blazon reads, in gold ein Rot und Rot bewetter schwarze Adler mit silbernen Krallen, Belgite mit einem Hirschal, daran in Silber ein rotes Borkenkreuz. The town's arms might in English heraldic language be described thus, or an eagle displayed sable-armed and langed gules and clawed argent, his breasts surmounted by an escutcheon of the last charged with a cross of the third. Once the new, greater town of Boppard had been founded, the town's old arms lost the validity. Only in 1985 could the town council reach an agreement on new arms. The problem stemmed from, among other things, wanting to please everyone by choosing an heraldic emblem with which all Ortsbezirke could identify. This was not easy from an heraldic point of view, for only 2 of the constituent communities, Boppard and Bad Salzig, had borne arms before amalgamation. The other 8 therefore had no heraldic history. Thus it was decided that the new coat of arms should be charged with the imperial eagle, like the old arms, but that the eagle should have an escutcheon on its breast, itself charged with St. George's cross. Ironically, the heraldic device formerly borne by the electorate of Trier, against whose hegemony the townsfolk had once fought so hard, The imperial eagle was meant to refer to the time when Boppard was a free imperial city, before the widely unpopular pledge put the town in electoral Trier hands, and the Trier cross. Of course, to the time under Trier's rule, an element of unity could be seen in the latter charge, for all but one of the Ortsbezirke had one slain under electoral Trier sovereignty, Holsfeld being the only one that never had. Town partnerships. Boppard fosters partnerships with the following places: